I'll look again.
Okay, I'll check too, maybe.
Maybe you need 4 temps.
Ready, guys? We're ready. Welcome all. Thank everybody coming to the May 5th Wilton Town Board meeting. I'd like to start with a pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you take the roll call, please?
Supervisor Lant.
Here.
Deputy Supervisor McCacken.
Here.
Councilman McGardis.
Here.
Councilwoman Culligan. Here. Councilman O'Connor.
Councilman here. Human? You're stretching.
All set? All set? And it's with great sorrow and a loss to the town, we have a member of our Wilton Planning Board resigning, Michael Dobus. I just want to thank you for all your years of service, Michael. Need a motion to accept that.
I'll make that motion with regrets.
Second?
I'll second that motion with deep regret. Mike has done an extraordinary job for this community over a long, long time. And we're all grateful to all the time you've donated and devoted to us, Mike.
Truly.
Definitely, you've really molded the town and throughout the years to where we are now. Nice job, Michael, thank you. That's why I'm voting no, and you're going to have to stay on.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Take us a second. Back for Mr. Dolbus, Representative Michael Dolbus, by the Wilton Town Board, an affirmation of your 37 years of dedicated contribution, loyal service while serving on the Wilton Planning Board, 25 years of steering the guided the town of Wilton to where we are today. Thank you for your life allegiance to the town of Wilton and your position. Thank you for your patience. Look at all the raises you got years after year. Julie, we have anybody who wants to speak?
Paul Kelly.
Mr. Kelly?
He's coming in now.
Good evening. Paul Kelly, 27 Cobble Hill Drive, and I live in an R1 residential district. Last month, it came to the attention of some neighbors in our neighborhood where we live in the R1 district that a house was going to be bought and then turned into a bed and breakfast, which happened this past month. I did stop by the town hall and I furnished a letter. I've got a little bit of a background in the law and zoning, and offered some information to the town. Nobody's contacted me yet, but I would like to have some kind of time to go over with everybody, because apparently there may not be a full, complete understanding of the town code and the R1 district with short-term rentals, bed and breakfast, etc. But I can say 100% for sure that it is not allowed and it is compulsory for the town to take action. So I would like something to be done in that manner. And from my perspective as a real estate attorney, I can't even find a reason why this would be allowed. So I've got all the information. I'd be glad to share it. And a few of the neighbors stopped by today, and I think that we'd like to get some resolution to this before next month's meeting, but if there's not, then we can have some additional neighbors show up at next month's meeting as well, too. You should have all my contact information.
We have been working on this for over a year on the council, and this will be addressed first thing in the morning with the building department.
Great, because that house is already rented.
First thing in the morning.
And,
Is it like an Airbnb?
It is, it's whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, yeah, bed and breakfast, yeah.
Short-term rental, the term in the code is a tourist home, which is a dwelling for overnight accommodations for compensation, which covers a bed and breakfast or anything like that. So they're already booked out, and as somebody who lives there, you know, you don't know about traffic noise and transients, what kind of, you know, sex offenders may be coming in or not, you know. So we'd like to have some resolution on that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you.
Baker.
Who's that? Alex Rissat?
Thank you, I appreciate the time. My name's Alex Rosati, I live at 12 Streetbriar Drive, which is the house right next door, so I just want to echo Paul's concerns. Done just walking around the neighborhood, talking to the other neighbors, they share the same concerns that Paul and I have with it, and from what we've seen historically with people that just go away for a camp in the neighborhood and rent it for a weekend, we've seen really bad things on next door, so it's a concern for safety, and it's just not the kind of neighborhood from a zoning perspective and from a residential perspective where you want something like that happening, so. Sure. I want to support that and just show my concern.
No, what street? Is that Cobble Hill?
Sweetbriar Drive.
Sweetbriar, okay, yep.
So the house is on 14th Sweetbriar.
Yeah, you know, it's been a trend nationally even where even investment companies, investors are buying homes with no intention of living in them and, you know, renting them seasonally.
That's why we've been working on it for a year. Because I think, I can't speak for the
agree
whole
with
board.
you.
I can speak for the whole board, but I certainly agree with you. So,
I think you have the board on your side, but we will get on it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, this is their second property that they bought as an investment property up in the area. So
Yeah.
it's going to continue.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you for speaking.
Rich Pollock?
Yes, Rich Pollock, 17 Carlisle Terrace. I came last month with a request or a suggestion that there be, in the future, be a privilege of the floor included at the planning board meetings. I've been attending the planning board meetings for about 6 months, and the night of the meeting or the night before, I had a good chat with the supervisor, but the end result is that there was no privilege of the floor. I was able to talk to the chairman for 5 or 10 minutes after the meeting. It was not a productive meeting. Well, maybe it's productive because now I understand that some of his opinions, which he stated to me more or less as facts, I strenuously disagree with. And just to boil that down quickly, it's an R2 I built, just like Ray. I was raised next door neighbor for years. We built in a R2 zone. R2 was in the town code. It's called rural residential. One reason we went there was because we wanted privacy. We wanted to have some room around us and not be packed right in. We had been in the packed-in situation for many years before in different communities. So we move in here, and lo and behold, what's happened with the change in the zoning ordinance, now there's this, it sounds great, conservation subdivision, but when you look into it closer, what it means is that the density, the perceived density when you drive down the street is about double the density of what you see when you drive through Carlisle Terrace. Carlisle Terrace, I just did a quick drive-through, and you see 35 and a half houses per mile if you just do the density calculation. the street right behind us, which was built a couple of years ago, that's about double. That's 66.6 houses per mile. And this new conservation subdivision that's being proposed down the street near Stewart's, Ingersoll and Route 50, that area, that if you look at the map here and you just look at the size of the lots, I mean, a lot of the lots are less than 100 feet wide, 90 feet wide and so forth. You do the math and you get that higher density, about double of what it is in the original rural residential subdivision. So I would very much like the board, I would like it to be on record that this is a concern, not only of mine, but I can bring in a petition if you want that. But I've talked to a number of neighbors, and privacy is a concern, and the prevailing attitude of at least one person on the planning board is that it's almost a quote, nobody's interested in that type of subdivision anymore. Nobody wants them. Well, I've heard that argument from a builder's perspective, and I understand it. It's a lot cheaper to build less road and more houses, and you make more money. That's simple, but that doesn't mean that there's no demand for, and secondly, it means that when you have zoning, the intent of zoning was to provide protection to people in the long run. That's at least one of the intents. So when I built there 30 years ago, I thought I had protection, and that's apparently not what I've got. So that's one of my points, and I'm not going to bore you with others, but I would like to have privilege of the floor at the planning board meetings, or I can keep coming back to this meeting and have every month have a little topic to talk about. But there's several other topics that I feel strongly about.
I will talk to him again, Rich, tomorrow.
Rich, when you're talking about, having the floor at a planning board meeting, you're not talking about being denied the ability to speak when there's a public hearing about a proposal.
No, I think this is just-
No, the issue is this: when there's a public hearing, it's on a specific project. So you're asked, would you like to stand up and talk about this project? And if I have a general concern, and Ray, you know my background. I mean, I've been doing this type of stuff for years.
Yep.
I've got general concerns about, traffic studies, traffic impact studies, taxes, all sorts of things.
Sure.
And, if I stand up at a public hearing on Pine Brook Landing or whatever, it's like, that's not the right way to discuss that. But I think it would be appropriate if, a few minutes were set aside. And if somebody rambles on forever, and I'm not going to do that tonight, but, I understand that people's time is valuable, but it's also their input is valuable, and there should be a way to have it in public record.
We are working to set up a committee for code revision.
That's good.
And if that's something you'd like to sit on,
Probably not, but
okay?
I'm retired now, and I was doing this stuff for 30 or 40 years.
I just put it out there. I'm setting up a brand new committee. It's going to be formed with 2 board members, and the rest of it's going to be the public. So,
Counselor, you have something?
Yeah, I just thought I should add a comment. There's another side to the coin. Most planning boards don't have privilege of the floor, and there are some very strong reasons to not have privilege of the floor. I can elaborate on them for way longer than anybody wants me to, but I'll just mention one, and that is that when planning boards do have open forum or privilege of the floor, members of the public tend to try to get planning boards involved in things that they have no legal authority to be involved in. So just so you know, there's another side to the coin, and it's a bit of a slippery slope.
And their job is to basically take a project and fit it into the code.
Their job is to review applications.
Right.
The comments that this gentleman is making, no discredit to the comments at all. They're totally appropriate comments to be made to a particular body in a particular open public meeting.
The code revision.
Or to the town board, exactly as you've done. Totally appropriate, because they're about policy issues that you, as the elected officials of the town of Wilton, have control over. But again, no one's asked me, and you all know I would never say do this or don't do this. I just want to make sure everybody understands there's a very, very much another side to that coin, and most planning boards in the state of New York do not have privilege of the floor or open forum because they don't want to get people, they don't want to encourage people to drag them into issues over which they have no legal authority.
Thank you. Everybody get a chance to read the April minutes, and if everybody's satisfied, somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes from last month.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. And bids for new fuels, for new fuel pumps of American Petroleum, $55,934. And RM Darrow Ripple and Company's $42,451.45. That's 2 new pumps. Taking them out, putting the new ones in, all the wiring, the computers being wired, and everybody get a chance to read the bids. I recommend we go with Darrow Ripple,
I'll second
saving a
that.
lot of money. Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make that motion, we go with Dalrymple.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. We have a request to bid the new telephone system. You want to speak about that, Maria?
Oh, sure. So we were notified by our current carrier, Windstream, that they will no longer be servicing not only us, but several other municipalities and organizations within our area because of the lack of a cost benefit to them. So technology has advanced far greater than what we currently have, and it's too costly for Windstream to carry us as a client. They've given us something of an advanced notice, not enough advance notice for me, but we are going to try to move on this quickly with a public bid so that we can get other vendors in to see what we have and offer their recommendations and a quote.
Make a motion, we allow her to go out to bid for the new telephone system.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Saratoga Prime Properties petition for use and rezone and set up a public hearing and refer to Saratoga County Planning Board.
Good evening, everyone.
How are you?
Hi, John Lappert for the record with Frank Grillo. I know this was discussed last month, I wasn't here. Frank's a longtime business owner and property owner in town. He was able to purchase this parcel across the Northway from where we are, adjacent to an 80-acre parcel that he already owns. And his goal is to have them both zone C2 so that they can be developed in the future. But Frank has no plans to develop them himself at this age. He'd like to sell them, but it seems like it would be appropriate to be in the same zone for hopefully.
Do you think he's getting old?
Well, I always say it doesn't matter what color hair you have as long as you got some. I'm with Frank. Since the last meeting, Councilman O'Connor had requested a box buffer along Edie Road, and Frank was happy to put that on the plans, and that's now before you. We just like to get this scheduled for public hearing so we can cash it out next month.
I'll make a, go ahead.
Yeah. You know, the more I thought about, we got a revised application, and I believe it's for C3, not C2. Okay, you said C2. So there's 3,511 feet of frontage on Edie Road. This entire property that's been asked to be rezoned, let's see, what is the total acreage? 55 acres. In addition to the adjoining property, it's 139 acres, all told. And I had originally, approached Mr. Perillo about having a 200-foot buffer the entire length of Edie Road. I mean, it's a, it's an R2 rural residential area, and a change to C3 is a very dramatic change. And when I was reviewing this earlier today, I thought about, I've been on and off of this board, half a dozen times since the late 1980s. I used to be chairman of the county planning board. And in both of those roles, I have never once seen a proposal asking a legislative body or a review body like the county planning board, never once, to make such a dramatic change in zoning without a plan. To just blindly say, you know what, let's just go ahead and change it.
Well, let's discuss that.
Sure.
You know, in terms of zoning, and Mark would tell you, when you're next to a zone, and you have parcels that are adjacent, that are in different zones, that's not as substantial. It's certainly not something that would be considered contract zoning or spot zoning because it's an adjacent parcel in the same zone, C3. The other parcel has frontage on Ballard Road, which would make sense that any future project would likely have only access on Ballard Road. But those are development, like the last gentleman was talking about, Mark was talking about. Those would be site plan issues before the planning board. Frank has no intention of developing it. He'd like to sell it. This makes it more saleable. It just seems for good zoning that where it is, adjacent to the Northway, we think that the 150-foot buffer is pretty significant, and again, it would be access from Ballard. So there is no plan because Frank's not going to build it. It just makes it more saleable, and anyone that came in with a plan would have to go through a site plan before the planning board.
So John, you're saying that the only access would be, I think you just said the only access would be to Ballard Road?
That's what I would expect, that these two would be.
So would the buffer be the entire length?
We haven't proposed it that way because there doesn't really need to be a buffer from the Northway, but that's something we can certainly talk about at the public hearing.
I think I'd like to talk about it before the public hearing.
Frank's position.
Well, let me just finish. So if you had a buffer, a 200-foot buffer, all the way from Ballard Road to the end of the property, it's a total of, let me get my numbers here. It's a total of 16 acres, which is, roughly 10% of the entire site combined. Under any proposed development, the code requires that 35% be green space, and 35% of the combined properties is 49 acres. So if you had a buffer of 200 feet for the entire length, it would satisfy 16 out of the 49 required acres of green space and give a more suitable buffer than just 150 feet for roughly half the property.
Green space, Greg, has other uses such as stormwater infiltration. We're saying this is no build. You couldn't do anything in there. So it does limit the development. I guess, just talk about this parcel, it's roughly 15%, which is pretty substantial.
Yeah.
I think that it's easier to talk about extending 150 feet up along Eden Road, but to go to 200 feet, that would really affect the value of the property.
Frank had shared with us at the last meeting that the property is under option for sale to a company called Scannell.
So he has a contract there. There's a company that's doing due diligence. We have no idea it was under contract with somebody else 2 years ago. We don't know if this is going to go through or not. It's possible, but he certainly wants to sell it.
Okay. So if it was rezoned and it was sold, and you have some other developer, and just for those folks that don't know, Scannell is a nationwide developer. They're out of Indiana, and they literally do development, big-time development from coast to coast. Projects in California, projects in New York, and a lot of places in between. So let's say Scannell, or somebody else, doesn't matter who it is, someone other than Frank owns the property. Along the rural residential area, along Edie Road, could they put a bowling alley in? Sure. Could they put
Planning board review.
Yeah, but it's allowed. So as long as they met the provisions of the code, they could put one in, correct?
Yeah, what would be wrong with that?
Could they put gas stations in?
They couldn't put gas stations because Frank has imposed a restrictive covenant that there's one of them competing with him, so gas stations and a truck stop would not be permitted.
Convenience stores?
No.
You're saying it's not in the code?
No, but Frank has provided.
Okay, well.
He would not allow that.
Yeah, well, but we haven't seen that.
Okay, well.
And the parties involved in the sale can change the provisions of their agreement at any point.
Frank is trying to protect his business.
Right. Could they put a restaurant in? A bar? An auto repair service? a fast food restaurant,
Ray, I would argue,
drive-throughs,
you know,
a retail plaza.
with Ballard Road frontage, all of those are appropriate uses. They can be built on the lot next door.
Well, we're not talking about Ballard Road frontage. We're talking about 3,511 feet of frontage along Edie Road.
And we've already agreed to 150 feet, which is most of it.
Well, it's not most of it. It's a good piece of it, but it's not most of it.
Most of it on my map. I guess that's a decision.
And here's another point, you know, is, as I mentioned before, Skinell's a big development company. I sat in on a meeting with them, maybe about 2 months ago now, and asked them what they plan to do with the property. And they won't tell us. Not a clue.
I don't know that they have a tenant.
They say they don't. They say they have no plans. So they're making a case that they need all of this property and they need it zoned in this fashion, but they have no idea what they're going to do with it.
They're not making a case to have it zoned. Frank wants to have it zoned so that it's them or somebody else who would advise it that it's in the same zoning, the two parcels.
So going back to my original premise, I'm not comfortable proceeding to a public hearing. I don't want to mislead somebody into thinking, at least for myself, that I would be comfortable doing such a dramatic zoning change from R2 to C3 in a predominantly rural residential zone without having a prospective plan. I've never seen it done. Not once in the 35 years between the town and the county planning board that I've been doing this stuff. I've never seen it once. So if Skinnell would come with a prospective, design or a plan, I might feel different about it. But to go into this completely blind doesn't make any sense to me.
We don't have a deal with anybody. You mentioned or anybody else, but somebody's under due diligence, and the last people under due diligence canceled the contract last year, so we don't know what's going to happen. This is Frank, as a property owner in town, asking for it to match the zone, the site next door. And it's a legislative determination of the town board.
So your key issue is you want it to match?
Yeah.
Well, why don't you change the other one to R2? Then it'll be matched.
C3 seems like a higher and better use than Ballard Road.
I was just joking. So
This buffer that you're talking about, can you draw it on here?
So here it is. There's a picture of the buffer. So we're providing 150 feet along.
Here.
Yep. And Ray is talking about this piece.
So,
here.
John, all along here, you could have fast food restaurants, car dealerships.
This is Ballard Road.
No, that's the Northway. This is the...
Where's it on my map? Have I got a different map than you?
No.
We all got different maps.
That was before this was put in. This is
All right, so then,
Okay, yeah, I didn't get the shading on my map.
yeah, I didn't either.
So
this whole piece here.
So you're talking right down, if I was to draw on this right here,
Yes.
Edie goes
the entire
all the way
length
up
of Edie.
here, all the way up to there.
Right.
That's Ballard cut across.
This is,
Right. So in this stretch, here. Well,
wait a minute.
So from this point
From
to this
the
point.
Northway point all the way.
Right.
Where are the houses on Edie Road?
So,
Back here?
well, there's a brand new development going in right across the road.
So that's the idea of having that buffer.
There's a house here.
There is a house here.
Oh, yeah.
What about that little notch is?
There's not. There's a home there. Home here. Brand new development. They're cutting the roads right now.
So he's gonna put the buffer here, which covers basically Edie, no buffer on Ballard.
No, this isn't Ballard. This is all Edie.
Oh, this is
Ballard's
Edie.
up here.
Okay,
So for all of this on Edie Road, McDonald's.
but this is already
Burger King,
commercial.
Yes.
This little.
So they could do the McDonald's, the Burger King, all that here, they wanted to.
So we're talking about this.
Right, but I mean, they could do it here, but right now, the way it's written, they can't do it here.
We're proposing this, and Ray is asking for this.
Is that a big sticking point?
Well, at 150 feet, I think Frank would be comfortable with that, but at 200 feet, it's
He
not.
wants to go that way too. Yeah, but that's not protecting the only protection that's given is possibly that little,
Yeah,
Well, plus you can't have entrances from this direction.
right now.
all right, so, I mean, all right. So now I get a better idea.
The other
of
reason
what
I
it
want to
looks
see
like.
a site plan, so Skinnell's, well, there's no site.
There's no site plan, and Frank's not building
Right.
anything.
So this meeting I sat in on, with Skinnell, where they wouldn't tell us why they had an interest in the property, because they don't have a tenant, not sure about the use. I'm not sure, why they have an interest in the property if they have no intent to develop anything or design anything. I brought up at that meeting, I said, what about, what are the traffic issues? So,
Those were all the site plan review issues.
yeah, but, John, my problem is that once it's zoned, as long as they meet the provisions of the zoning ordinance for C3, they can put whatever they want in there. And C3 includes a lot of things other than, when we were brought into this process, it was about the possibility of having a regional distribution center on the site. And now it could be a dozen different things that may not be compatible, with the area. So what I would like to see is, if there's a prospective buyer or tenant, I want to see what their plan is before we make this very
But
dramatic
I thought there was
change.
none.
There is no plan, and Frank is not doing it, and he doesn't have any right to ask them. I mean, they're in due diligence to decide if they want it. If they don't want it, he'll sell it to somebody else. There's
Yeah.
no plan.
Oh, yeah. So what I'm saying is, I don't want to go into this thing blind, and say, hey, we're going to take, all of this acreage, that's been rural residential zone for decades.
If it was a regional distribution center, I think that, and I have no knowledge that it would be, but obviously Wilton is a good place for that because we already have two. And, and right by exit 16 is a good place, for commerce. So I think it fits into the town's plans. And anything, all of the issues that you're talking about, traffic and anything else are valid, but those would be with the next owners once they come before the town with a plan.
But even beyond the traffic issues, the use,
Then that would be a buffer issue.
would you be amenable to excluding in any approval of a zoning change that entire laundry list of uses?
Mark would probably tell you that that's contract zoning and that would get everybody in trouble. But Frank's just trying to keep it so that he can sell it, that as flexible as possible, so he can sell it. I think, Ray, maybe 150 feet along Edie Road, along the other piece of it, might address your concern. I would rather not go to 200.
150 feet for the entire stretch?
Yes.
Of Edie Road?
Yes.
All the way up to Ballard?
Yep. Excuse me, John.
No, it wouldn't be up to
Not
Ballard.
up to Ballard, just on this piece.
Yeah, just this piece we're talking about now.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, not
the
on
other
the
one's already
C3,
zoned.
I'm sorry, not on the C3 portion, but the entire stretch of R2 property.
Yep,
Frank, you'd be good with
So
it?
you're gonna go around the corner with that buffer?
that's what you're asking for, and Frank and I always
Would that make sense?
that we could do that.
Frank, you're good with that?
Yes, I am.
I make a motion that we just push this, because looking at the map, I know what happened in my area around Smithbridge Road a long time ago. I was just a kid, but my parents owned it, and they rezoned it to put in, they changed it from residential because of the Route 9 corridor. And looking at the map, I mean, it just, to me, it flows with the R3. I'd rather see commercial than frankly, more apartment buildings. Unfortunately.
Now, by putting that buffer, that would limit...
But that buffer makes, that protects a lot of people on that, and I'm assuming anything that goes in there is probably gonna come off of Ballard Road
Right, that
anyways.
would exclude any curb cuts and...
Right.
So that's my
In
biggest
our
concern
planning
is
board, we can
dumping on
address
that
that
town road.
if they try to build it out.
Just agreed to that.
You know,
So
Frank's good with
I'm
that.
all right with
Did you make a motion, John?
I did.
I have a second.
I'll second.
You want to poll the board, Julie?
This is simple.
Yeah.
Public hearing, send it to the county.
Correct, in the county.
Right.
Exactly.
Deputy Supervisor McCaffrey,
Yes.
Councilmember Vargas, Councilman O'Connor?
No.
Supervisor Land?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, so it'll be 7 o'clock, June 2nd.
Yeah, and again, my
7 o'clock, June
objection
2nd.
is after having that meeting with Scannell and them telling us virtually nothing, I prefer to have even a preliminary sketch plan of what may happen.
Frank, as soon as you find something out, I know you will inform us, and I know you're a man of your word. I know. But if you do, you'll let us
Well, I know
know.
you're in the blind too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Local law number 2 of 2022 amendment to OML, allowing public bodies of the town to participate in meetings via video conference. Motion set, public hearing.
I'll make a motion to set the public hearing for that.
We second?
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
7:01, June 2nd.
7:01,
first
June 2nd.
The other one was June 2nd as well?
Yep, 7 PM.
Just out of curiosity, Mark, have you seen other communities moving ahead on the video conferencing meeting issue?
Too slowly, but yes.
So haven't we been already doing those? Okay.
Number 10, transfer of development rights. You're on.
Okay, so this was discussed at the last meeting. I think there was a little bit of a educational piece on it. However, moving forward, kind of need some guidance from the board as whether we want to move this forward. There's some questions in this 3-page document on transfer development rights. There's some things that we can add, change, but I think we need to sit down and look at this in detail, make sure that everybody's on board with moving forward, if so you so choose first, and secondly, the details of the local law.
Can this be done on a application one-on-one, or is this something that we just change across the entire board?
Sort of both. Meaning, you can't do it on application-specific basis unless there's a general authorization to do it. So the general authorization would be sort of across the board, but it wouldn't actually apply until implemented on a particular property.
So
So it's
case
sort of
by,
like a general authorization
Right.
that if you decide to do that, would then allow, not require, but allow it to be implemented on a property-specific basis.
and we get to approve the property that they're willing to swap.
So Mark, you're saying it does not contain a right for a property owner to do, but it allows for a mechanism.
Sure. Right. It's case by case, town board approval. For
Planning board as well.
and planning board as well.
Yeah.
Again, I kind of echo what
To me, it seems like a great way to preserve.
we've done in other towns that you're familiar with.
Yes, very small. That's not necessarily that big. But the answer to your question is there's 960 or 12,000 states. In the mall, there's a lot of out of town in New York State. Let's say maybe 10%.
And it's been fairly successful for those towns.
You know, the ones I know of, something that's real complicated and kind of shy away from it, something that's been really successful.
I think it was presented in the town board meeting, we might have to
Right. And I don't know if Mark recalls, but several months ago, it was a very significant
Yes, it was.
transfer development rights of 30 pages. So after some consultation, we've reduced it down to 3. So I think we've simplified it quite substantially.
So it's simple, stupid, wicked.
Whereas
The way it was presented last month, I thought it was fantastic.
Okay. So there's some items on here, fee for land management. So let's say the developer, last meeting we talked about.
We can make them go to school in it, right?
A school?
If we want to. I'm not saying we're going to.
I don't know about that, but the intent is to conserve large tracts of land that are desirable for the town. And that would be the town board to decide, hey, yes, this is a desirable piece of town or land for the town. So, certain items like letter G, a fee for the land management and trail development, monitoring, and maintenance. So as the town takes on this land, there's a mechanism for funds for future maintenance.
Which is what I got from last month.
Right.
You read the 30.
Right.
But you had to get through 50.
Yes. So, simple things, survey the property lines, third-party engineering verification on buildable land and allowable density appropriateness for, by the applicant. So, for example, in this case particular, the one particular parcel that we're talking about, I had a developer come to me 5-6 years ago. He said, I can build 18 lots on this piece of property. There's some wetlands and stuff that troublesome. Mr. Bomani came in, his engineer said that he can build 30, I'll just throw a number out, 30.
Well, let's not just throw numbers out, because I think this is a limitation, right?
Yes.
It is 30?
Well, I don't know on this one.
We don't remember the exact number.
But it was more than...
It was more than the other developer, so that raised the flag to me, saying,
Okay.
well, okay,
So you did the actual homework?
yes,
Okay,
and
what
said,
is the-
wait a minute.
What's
we
the
need-
actual number?
Yeah, we need to figure out this actual number. Looking at wetlands and doing some calculations. So that's one thing where this third party, the last HI, the last item, would be a third-party engineer verifying that information.
And who
So
pays for the third-party engineer?
the developer seeking. Yep. So it's those items that I want to make sure that the board is aware of, and if there's anything, you want to sit down one-on-one, or two of you want to sit down and talk about it.
I'm ready for this. I mean, I think it was, based on what I saw last month, I thought it was a great to move forward on. I don't know why other towns don't.
It's
And maybe it's gonna get more, the more it happens, maybe the more popular it's gonna get. But,
Okay.
I mean, for us to preserve an area where we could use, like a section of land for another park at the northern end of the district, it seems like a great idea.
Right.
To give up a few houses in an area that they're already developing.
Right.
I'm assuming that's what we're talking about.
So I don't know if you want to set a public hearing. I don't know, have you read through it in detail? Are you comfortable with going to public hearing? Or
Comfortable setting public hearing. I'll have some minor proposed revisions.
Okay.
But I am comfortable setting public hearing if the board wants it to.
And I'm okay with making a motion to set a public hearing.
But I don't think, you're not in a significant rush either. I don't want the board to feel pressured that they have to move forward. So, and not that that's the applicant's desire to push, but just want to make sure you're aware.
In our particular situation, we have a contract on the parcel of land the town is looking for. It expires in June. Now, if that can be extended or not, I don't know. But to date, that conversation has to take place. It does expire.
Irregardless of that particular application, I still think it's a fantastic idea, and I think we should move forward with it regardless to get going on this TDR right
Okay.
in
So
general.
our meeting's what, June 2nd?
It's gonna be a long one.
Right, so
7:03.
theoretically, we could do a vote on June 2nd, right? After
That'll
public
be a
hearing.
public hearing, yeah.
Public hearing,
Right.
seeker.
I'm not sure when your
Plus,
contract expires.
Mark will get back to us with
That's
all his revisions
beginning
too,
of
which will be
June.
great.
I think that'll be acceptable.
You say, it's the beginning of June?
Yeah.
Okay.
Quite confident the landowner will see clearly and give us a little leeway if we need a couple days.
It's kind of informally, it sounds like everybody's acceptant to it, and just,
Yeah, I do have experience with it. We have utilized it in other towns as they adopted it. It does ebb and flow. In regards to the point that it's the board's choice, if the parcels are acceptable or the exchange is acceptable. I've seen it in a town that has done it, elect to not do it because something else changed or the situation at work. So it's not a given right.
Right.
I think it's the right term, but it's not just because it's law, it doesn't mean it's a given right. They still have to qualify for it.
And we still have to accept it.
It's an option.
We're the protectors of the community based on the, so, yeah, I'm definitely good with it. Get it moving.
Okay, we got the public.
Well, I think we got to vote.
To set a public hearing.
Make a motion to set a public hearing.
I'll
Second.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
7:02.
Foothills Basketball Enterprise LLC proposal. I guess they're gonna use Gavin Park. John McCacker and I talked to Michael Wolf's a pretty decent guy. They train girls in basketball. What was he paying them, John? $50 an hour?
I talked to, when I saw that crossed out on the letter, I called Mark and, down at the park, and the only reason that it was crossed out is the going rate at Gavin Park is $60 an hour. It's
Right.
what everybody else pays. So, yeah, the rate would be $60 per hour. But he said that there's available gym time for this group, and Mr. Wolf's a town resident, by the way. So it's,
And I think what we agreed on was not the $50 an hour, is after so many hours of time, we would give them a bonus for using the facilities that would pretty much counter that, to bring it down to that 50, because I think it's a great idea, and
Right.
to keep
Keep
the
these
cost
kids
at a minimum.
busy.
It's for the kids, so after so many, I don't know if we've done a number yet, but after, like, they've used it for 20 hours and the next hour's free or something like that, to try to kind of offset that.
$60 for the first so many hours.
Right, so that way there, and that could go across the board for everybody that pays 60 an hour. If they use it, for as many hours as they plan on using, to give them some kind of discount at the end, which would make more sense than making it look obvious that you're giving them a break and nobody else.
As long as, all the
It's got to fall in line with all organizations, not just giving them singling them out.
Yep, I agree.
And it was a great program. I mean, he puts his heart and soul into it, and I think it'll be a great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a motion.
Need a motion to approve the arrangement between this organization and the park. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
So they're looking to put a sign up saying the home of the...
You're right.
Yes, which would be, that would go underneath a small one, not nothing, just a small sign underneath the entrance, going from pole to pole, home of the,
So it'd be under this sign?
under that one.
Okay, all right. Somehow I was thinking it was on the building.
And they would like something probably up in the front, but
Okay, I was thinking it was on the
To
building.
me, that was
It's on the entrance sign, it's not on the building.
on both entrances, right.
Oh, okay, I thought I was thinking buildings.
They were talking about that, but I think it's better to have it, you get more attention if you put it out by the road. Especially if there's other girls in the town that would like to.
Because this one says near the gym entrance, that's why.
That's where he proposed it originally.
We got a motion and a second.
We did have a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried.
Can we ask a quick question about this?
Sure.
Who struck the deal? Who talked to him?
I spoke with him, John had spoke with him, we didn't strike any deal.
Well, we're just making sure that the phrase, "We will use your facilities exclusively for all of our future basketball training," means that they will only use Gavin Park, not that they will be the only ones using Gavin Park.
No, probably what he meant.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the only rational way to interpret it. We just want to make sure nobody was
Right.
saying anything different.
They can't stop anybody else.
Yeah, right.
That's their home court.
That
Yeah,
just
exactly.
means that, to come up with that $60 an hour, because I just figured if they use it so many hours in a year, that we'd give them money back as any other organization that's going to use it. But if somebody's using it for 20 hours a year, then they'd be paying $60 an hour. Somebody's using it 200 hours a year, and I'm just using these as numbers, we would give them a break on.
We were just looking to clarify use of the
Okay.
word exclusively.
Okay.
'Cause the
I
truth
kind of
is-
figured it
the truth is-
definitely triggered you. I saw your
The truth is,
expressions.
it won't matter. If they spend some time at some other gym, it
Right,
doesn't change their deal. So-
Okay. Do we need to change that now, or are we just clarifying it on the record? Okay.
We have an appointment to the Wilton Planning Board, Chris Price, from 5/7/2022 to 12/31/2027. Need a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We have an alternate appointment to the Wilton Planning Board, Tom Murphy, from 5/8/22 to 12/31/22. Need a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Peddling and soliciting. My belief, this COVID is spiked up again, and I gotta agree with Councilman O'Connor. I don't think people want people coming to their house, so I think we should sit back on that for a while.
Yeah, my principle on that is, should the town board give people permission to go on somebody else's
trespass.
property and knock on their door and solicit money from them? I don't think that's our role.
I know somebody's come to my
Counselor, you
door
had
this week.
feelings about this?
Well, I do. I think we need to be a little careful because long before I joined the ship, in 2011, Code Section 85 was adopted, and subsection 5 of Wilton Town Code Section 85 basically says, I'm not quoting it verbatim, but pretty close, and I can get it if you want, but it basically says that the town clerk's office will issue permits for peddling and soliciting door to door unless there's some compelling health, safety, or welfare reason for denial. Now, I have no trouble suggesting that the increase in COVID is a compelling reason for denial. But as to your general statement, Councilman O'Connor, I'm a little troubled by that only from the standpoint of how it meshes with that section of the code. So we might want to look at revising that code.
Code review will handle it.
Or even repealing it.
Well, we can do that. I got a committee
Got an
started.
agenda next month, there, Julie.
Yeah.
But again,
Well, for now, we can deny it for COVID.
Right, because of
I'm not
COVID.
troubled at all. I'm not
Put those
troubled at
guys
all
with the little
that
signs on
denying
the
based on the increase in COVID.
Right.
And that means we deny it. But again, I think you have to be fair, even-handed, and deny any request.
Yeah, I agree. Based on your experience with other municipalities, do most or any of them have a peddling ordinance where they give basically a license to go on people's residential
usually
properties?
Some, not many. Some, and then they also have what I think we have a version of here, transient merchant license also, which is usually different. It's usually setting up something at a site.
Oh, yeah.
We're not,
Farmer's market kind of thing.
So we can move right on to the next one.
So for now, we're just
Table.
No action taken.
No action taken.
Right, we're denying based on the code.
Right.
and if you're doing that, then you do that by motion.
Yeah, I think,
Okay. Johnny?
The motion,
Right.
the ongoing ride.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Committee reports.
so baseball. I met with Saratoga Wilton baseball. Probably 4.5 months about the field conditions at Gavin Park. Sat down with John, myself, Kurt, John King, Mark Marino. And there's some issues with the fields. We agreed that the town would be willing to do whatever it takes to make the field safe. So we did have a company come in and look at them, and based on their observation was a letter from Dear John, thank you for your opportunity to meet with you and Kurt. I was thoroughly impressed with your complex. It is amazing to me that you can maintain such a large facility with 2 men, which pretty much should be like 4 men, I'm thinking, but for the most part. They couldn't, they're gonna give us some quotes to fix these fields, but they felt that the fields were in great condition, according to these folks that built. Wilton Youth Baseball was talking about bringing up some red clay. We're not opposed to it, but got some pictures of the red clay from 2 days ago. And I'm just gonna show this to the board so that they know what's going on. I could do that too, but it's a small picture.
Close to
I didn't blow it up.
Close to them. Half of them are black anyways.
This is east side. The day of. This is Hartfield.
Hartfield.
This is east side. The same day, Gavin Park. No, got a little bit of water. This is after raining. Oh, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
So when I took when they got the pictures of our field, they were second to none. I got a couple complaints about dust conditions. The kid couldn't see the ball coming at him, pulled the kid out of baseball because he was afraid of that, because of all the dust over there. The kid was gonna get hit with the ball. I sat and watched 3 games, back to back, 2 nights ago. And I did a poll with not only the coaches, the kids, and the parents. And the complaint on all 3 fields, and I spoke to John about this, little rocks from the fill that they're using. So we're gonna try to get some screen fill instead of wherever you're buying them rocks from. Get rid of the fill with the rocks in it, because that was the only complaint from everybody that I talked to, was basically they were afraid their kid was gonna slide on a rock and couldn't. But no dust conditions. I mean, I would have loved to be able to play on fields like that when I was a kid. So we are gonna still work closely with baseball, but you hear something in the chatter in the back, you know, there's other issues going on with the baseball, and we're gonna try to get to the bottom of it. But the town's willing to do whatever it takes to do whatever we gotta do to these fields.
Keep that park number 1.
We don't wanna put a lot of money into Gavin Park and have them continue playing in East Side. If they're not gonna be used, why spend the money on the field? That's not the consensus I'm getting from the parents, the kids, and the coaches.
Yeah.
And, no, and the gray clay that they delivered.
Right. No.
If anybody has pottery class over the summer, we've got plenty of clay. If anybody's doing any pottery courses.
You done?
That's it. Yeah, I'm good.
I get a couple of quick things. Before this meeting, I was down at the Open Space Committee meeting of the Saratoga County Board of Supervisors with the other folks who are on the management team for the county's first community forest, which is going to be here in Wilton. An official name has been created for it called the Graphite Range, a Saratoga County community forest. Graphite because of the old graphite mines out on this property. Very cool up there. For those who haven't been there yet. Let's see. Our presentation was very well received by the Open Space Committee and very supportive of what we're trying to do there. And Saratoga County has been generous with their support of the project. Let's see, the revised grant agreement with the Wilton Wildlife Preserve that we approved last month has been taken care of. Supervisor Land signed off on it on our behalf, and the preserve signed off on it as well. I want to thank Maria for following up on this, and a lot of other stuff that never gets signed unless she interjects.
You got that right.
Yes,
You got that right.
Done. And one other thing that I spent a little time on earlier this week is the possibility of getting an electrical vehicle charging station here for the town hall property.
We're looking at them, they're supposed to go into Gavin Park.
I'm looking for it at my shop right now. It's
Just get a generator.
It's quite a chore to get.
That is in the works.
Okay, so I was swapping.
That is in the works.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody from National Grid, and
They have a grant
grants.
opportunity right now.
Yeah, we're on.
9% of the.
Maria and Ryan are on it.
When I was looking into this last year,
Yeah.
the National Grid make charge or make work or something, they have a specific grant, and that 90%, it's based on the type of community that you're in.
Yes.
So there's different levels of grants
Yep.
according to where you're at with your geographical area, demographics, etc. And I think when we were talking about it, we were going to do a dual charger at Town Hall and a dual charger at the park.
Okay.
But I'll get back into that. I put that to the side temporarily, but I'll get back into that and
Thank you.
research. Yes.
Can we use some of the federal money that we got for a project like that?
So, the interesting thing is, yes, now that the regulations have been finalized, there's a broader scope of use, so we can put our efforts into spending on any governmental activity that we were going to.
Baseball fields.
So park would be one of them. So it's a broader scope that we can spend the money on, so yes,
Awesome. That's-
Yeah.
Synthetic.
That helps.
yes.
They would like synthetic mountains.
We've got, maybe we can talk about, uses of that money further.
I'd have to buy an electric car.
You all
So I
set?
got Mr.
All right.
Supervisor.
Scott DeSalt is in the crowd. He represents the Greenfield Fire District. He's a commissioner. You have an agreement with Verizon for that antenna to go at Maple Avenue? Okay. Now, a lot of people don't think we're on top of things, but we have one going down there, and there's one going on Northern Pines Road. It should improve our cell service, what is very much lacking in this town. It's the whole area. But myself and Ryan is on the phone, I know how often with Verizon, and we always we call somebody, now we're giving a new person. We are working with the Saratoga County Emergency Services on top of this too, so I hope in 3 or 4 months our service really improves with these 2 new towers.
I won't have to go out to the middle of Route 9 to talk on my phone now.
We could probably
You can't even
use
send
one
a
over the
text.
phone. Right, Ryan?
No.
We could probably use one over
But-
the phone.
I get service on the double yellow line. Perfect.
Service is
4
dropping
bars.
there, too. I can't figure out why. Service is terrible there.
And people in the audience, if we have tons of test kits for COVID and masks, and anybody listening, if you got a neighborhood Facebook, Julie will put some more out there tonight before she leaves, but COVID is still here. That's all I've got. Now, Maria, would you?
I got one thing here. It just kind of came to me, actually. Actually, it's the Heritage Society is going to co-host an event with the town of Wilton Historic Preservation Committee. The event will take place at the Braille Mansion at 683 Route 9 at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, May 18th. They're going to be offering tours of what they call the Braille House. The Braille House was the turkey farm, I guess they used to call
Original
it.
Pepper's Turkey Farm.
Yep, originally Pepper's Turkey Farm. It was
Most
built.
of you aren't old enough to remember that one.
It was built in 1850. I believe it's a stately home around the property. So they're going to be giving tours and open house. And
Yeah, they did a beautiful job on that.
Yep, exactly. So they just wanted us to read that for the public to be able to understand it. And that's it.
Thank you.
That's from the town historian.
And that can be posted on.
Yeah, we put that, can you put that on Facebook?
And on
Thank
the
you.
web. I
On the web.
send that request in, I just checked Facebook
Thank
now, I
you.
can see it. Thank you.
Mrs. Mary Ann, you want to give us your controller's report, please?
Yes. So the first category is budget transfers, and I am moving appropriation from the contingent account to the control of dogs for the animal shelter contract.
So you want to make a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
In favor? Aye. Carried.
Thank you. The second category is budget amendments. Item 1 is to recognize revenue for port facilities for the JCAP award and the corresponding increase in expenditures for expected items that will be purchased with that award. Then items 2 through 4, I'm using appropriated fund balance in the highway fund to pay for equipment and capital outlays for the roads in the forest development that have recently come to the attention of the highway superintendent as being in need of repair. So that's $150,000. This item number 3, also using appropriated fund balance, is for $24,123 to cover expenses related to unexpected repairs that need to be made on Gick Road. I believe it was National Grid, Mike, that was opening up the road to do work on Gick Road.
No, it's a separate issue. This is the metal pipe failure at New Country Way in Old Gick.
Okay, so we have the estimate for that. There's $24,123. And the last item, using appropriated fund balance as well, is related to an estimated cost for the repair of a box culvert collapse on Parkhurst Road.
I'll make a motion to approve budget amendments 1 through 4.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried.
Thank you. The third and last category under personnel is Mr. Louis Jennison has resigned from his position as Highway MEO effective April 27th, 2022, and the board is requested to accept Mr. Jennison's resignation.
You want to make that motion?
Make a motion to accept the resignation?
Second.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Thank you. And the last item, item B, Town Assessor Tina Weber is requesting that she and Assessment Clerk Melissa Miller attend the 2022 Cornell Seminar in Ithaca, New York, and it's going to be an overnight travel, so it's going to require board approval for that, and it runs from Sunday, July 17th through Thursday, July 21st.
Make a motion.
Motion. Second.
Second.
Favor? Opposed, carried.
And I'd just like to thank Mr. King out there for going above and beyond the last 3 weeks with the park and baseball and these countless meetings. I appreciate it.
I know you
And we
look
do
forward to this
have-
time of year every year.
We, despite of what you hear on the premises, I get nothing but positive feedback on the field, so keep it up.
We got May Day soccer this weekend, right?
Yep.
Like 4 million kids running around the park? Yeah.
And he's working so hard, he's missing a lot of entertainment.
He's not able to go to the casino with you?
Somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I will second.
Second. Thank you all.
Mark, the TDR, we should send that to